Hey, my name is Jochem Paap, aka Speedy J. I'm here with Music Radar Tech, and I'm going to show you how I play live and how I work in my studio. Yeah, so this is more or less the setup that I use for the STOOR live performances. And when the actual performance happens, I'm with 4 other guests, and they each have their own individual setups. And yeah, we improvise together. They have their own instruments. And for that occasion, I would have another V10 summing their signals, basically. And that would go into my setup, which consists of I have a 909, a TR-1000, and a modular rack, modular case. And it's basically set up in a way that I can adjust what I want to do very, very quickly. So it's for me, a very fast way of reaching the desired sound, you know. So because I'm improvising with 4 other people, sometimes you need to have like quick access to some kind of little percussion thing, or sometimes you need to be able to, you know, throw out a bass line very quickly, or to, do some effects or whatever, you know. So it's very there's a big range of what I can achieve with this very small setup. So I can basically be quick and be there when it's needed with the stuff that I want to contribute. So the way the case works is I have 2 synth voices, which both have their own individual sequencers. And the rest is basically, sound manipulation tools, filters, channel strips, some EQ, some effects that I use to treat the individual outputs of the 909. So the 909 sounds great. I can use it the way it sounds out of the box, but I can also heavily manipulate it. So I have control over, you know, basically I can go from like really whispering thin type of hi-hats or highs to clattering industrial percussion with like a few twists, you know. So it's very quick, and it's very easy to find sounds that I need to recall at some point. And everything is running in step mode. So I have the 909 just in step mode. I programmed the drum, the positions on the fly. Same goes for the 1000. 1000 has, I do switch between kits. So each, I've programmed it in such a way that I basically have a different type of kit under each pattern, but then it runs in step mode as well. So, you know, how the drums are sequenced is something that I do on the fly as well. Yeah, so I have the Metropolix for sequencing the Atlantis. And
IntelliGel as well.
Yeah, both IntelliGel. I mean, what this really represents is I used to do it with just a 101, you know, like trigger the sequencer and having a 101 with a pedal or something. But I basically build like a small studio with instruments that I'm really fluid on into this one case. So it's like a very simple synth voice, you know, which is quick to get either, you know, I can get bass lines, melodies, percussion sounds, you know, all quite quickly without having to, you know, it's not too complex, you know. It's like it's bread and butter, instant, very easy, and then it runs into this also IntelliGel simple. What is it called? I don't know. It's like a delay and a reverb, so I can spice up the sound a bit as well. There's also a Swarm synth, which has an internal sequencer, and that just basically runs by itself. I have a Mackie channel that is basically the Rotterdam style 909 kick. You know, you can go from there's some EQ, some gain, so you can go from really sort of nice housey types kicks to like gabber, you know, hardcore. Also vary with it just very quickly. And then I have this Forbidden Planet Steiner Parker filter, which is basically taking hi-hats, claps, and sort of the high end of the 909 that goes into an herb verb. And that combination makes it possible for me to do really sort of, very thin hi-hats, like highs, very subtle highs, to really, you know, clanging, almost like industrial percussion. Sound, you know, you won't even know it's a 909 sometimes when I use that chain. That's pretty much it. It's there's some EQ for the toms, so I can use the toms as bass lines, as bass elements for bass lines. I mean, it's the live show is with other people, so we have each other's back. You know, I can get like a sound going on headphones, you know, on the cue, and then just, you know, sculpt something. And when I think it's time to bring it in, I just throw it in and go with it. That's pretty much how everybody does it. You know, so it gives me the right palette and the right mix between limitation and freedom to basically be adaptive, and I basically have a solution for every circumstance. You know, I can play full track with this setup, but I usually bring in layers and provide parts of the whole mix. I decide what to bring in my own setup, but the people who are connected to the other mixer that is just basically there for summing. And you know, if you play with other people, it's basically all about trusting each other. You know, as soon as you start to interfere, it feels like you don't take them seriously. You know, so I mean, everybody's open. Their signals are open all the time. And if they fuck up, it's their responsibility. But yeah, that's the fun thing about it. You know, anything can happen. And I mean, there are a lot of mistakes. People make mistakes. I make mistakes. But that's part of the fun. Some, you know, if it's an obvious mistake, like I explained before, sometimes you are just, listening to one of your elements of the live set, and you're trying to sculpt a sound that you think is usable for that moment, and you think the fader is down, but people actually all hear this whole thing going, you know. So if that's an obvious thing that is clearly going on, and people who don't have, they don't know that they're making this mistake, I may sometimes cut it. But other than that, I don't interfere with whatever they bring to the table. You know, it's all, I trust that everybody, you know, contributes in a meaningful way. You know, choosing keys is in some of the groups that I play with, it is something that is being discussed beforehand. You know, it's like, what do we do to if we want to change key? And you know, for every time that happens, there was a different solution. And sometimes, you know, somebody walks around the table and it's like, see, you know, and then everybody tries to go into that key. But usually, most people play it by ear, you know, and then there's a lot of stuff that doesn't even depend on key. It's like, the sound that sometimes comes out of the whole collective is atonal or chaotic anyway. So, you know. Yeah, I would say that everything is everybody goes by intuition in the moment. You know, there's no narrative that we plan on throughout the night. I mean, usually there is some kind of build up, so usually it starts a bit slower than how fast it gets in the end. But I've also had jams where we go to a high tempo very, very quickly early on in the set, and then we drop it again, or we go very slow, you know. But these things go, they just happen, and it's basically however the room feels, you know, because everybody are experienced musicians and people who play live or DJ as well. So everybody has that room feeling and that sense of when something needs to change or when something needs to happen, when sort of a bump in energy is necessary, you know. So I think that's something that just plays out naturally. So I might start with some like toms or, you know, clicky thing from the synth, and then see what else is going on elsewhere in the setup. I would be doing this on headphones, right? So this is just maybe a bit faster. So on and so on. I mean, there's lots of things going on different channels, and sometimes, you know, you get to the point where somebody else takes over the lead, you know, and then on my headphones I'd be going like, okay, let's try a different kit, you know, I just switch kits, and then I go from there basically. Maybe something like this, and maybe this is not a good example, but So with a quick, some quick, you know, moves, I can go to a whole different territory. I found this space in about 2015, about 10 years ago, and when I saw the space, I thought, wow, this could be an amazing place to start collaborations and to set up new projects, because it's quite spacious here. And so I moved all my studio stuff in, and I got a vinyl cutting lathe, and I thought it was a cool idea to invite people and jam together, and then just basically document all the jams through a vinyl series. So that's how it started here. So basically just a place to let go of all the industry conventions and stuff like that, and limitations that running a label commercially brings, you know, and just abandon all that stuff and then just make music and cut it to vinyl and release it basically practically the next day. So from that, yeah, I did a lot of collaborations here with people from Holland, but also from all over the world, and people have used this facility also to record their own stuff. So it's really a place where not only myself, but other people can work too. And basically, I think people probably have heard about STOOR for the first time when they saw these live jams that we do in Paradiso in Amsterdam. That's basically they are live jams with myself and four guests, and we basically turn up with no plan. You know, everybody brings their own setup, their own gear, and it basically mimics the way I work here in the lab. You know, it's like a completely free-form style of improvising, and the way I used to do these things in the studio with one collaborator or multiple collaborators is basically the whole idea. The format is taken to the stage. So we turn up, we connect the gear, we make sure everything syncs up, and when there are enough people in the room, we press start and hope for the best. That's basically the whole format, and it's absolutely an amazing experience every time, because nobody knows what's going to happen. Every participating musician is participating but a spectator at the same time, because there is no plan. Nobody knows what is going to happen in the next moment. Everybody's just in the moment and there to, you know, enjoy the ride, basically. And that creates like a very meandering road, you know. Sometimes there are moments when things completely crash and nothing makes sense and music is chaotic. But there are also many moments where things align and come together, and then it's almost euphoric because everybody understands when things, you know, get in line, and that creates a whole bunch of energy and between the musicians, but also in the crowd. So it's like a joint experience between the people who are spectators and the people who are the makers, you know. And the fact that there is no future and no past in improvisation is the thing that I really like about it, you know. You're really in the moment, enjoying the ride. You don't know where you're going to go next, and it's too much energy to think about what happened, you know. So it's really just the here and the now, where you are moving and basically working purely on intuition. And I think being in that intuitive position is probably my comfort zone, in the studio as well as live, because the more you prepare, the more I prepare in terms of pre-programming things or laying out stuff that I can recall, the more that I have the feeling I can go wrong, you know, because if you think of something in advance and imagine how it can go, once you're on stage, it never goes the way you imagined it. So it's always, it always gives you a sense of failure or panic, you know, when you prepare something and it didn't go as planned. So I'd rather just strip all that and just have everything in step right mode and prepare nothing and just come up with everything on the fly, because it's basically the preparation is all the years of experience in the studio and on stage. That's the preparation. On the moment itself, I want to arrive with nothing, just experience and hopefully a bit of luck. and that's how it goes. And I feel more comfortable in being in this position than to be in a position where I prepare too much. There's absolutely no thinking in those moments. There's no time to think, you know. It's basically all it's all intuitive, and you know, you have to bring the gear that you are really fluid with, you know. It's like I mean, it looks like you know, stuff that everybody uses, and it is actually quite simple. They're just a drum machine and a modular synth. Sometimes I have a little granular sampler or some other little pedals or something, but the basis is always two voices of two synth voices, two sequencers, and a whole lot of sound manipulation modules that I use to treat drum sounds. And I can basically go from one extreme sonic palette to the next in seconds, you know. So I think when you play live, you really have to be very fluid with the gear you bring. More is not better. Flexibility is king, you know. It's like you have to be totally intuitive about it, and you have to kind of know without thinking where to go next or how to solve a problem, you know. So yeah, it's basically like every other instrument, you know, like even non-electronic instruments. You have to know your instrument inside out to be able to have an answer for every circumstance where you find yourself in. I would say that live manipulation of stuff or having hands-on gear is something that is a common thread in all of my work, you know, since the early 90s. I'm not really the type of person who has the patience to build music layer by layer by layer and spend hours and hours on fine-tuning stuff, or, you know, really sort of slowly sculpting something. I'm more into building the instrument first. That can be a very lengthy project, you know, like with instrument, I mean like either a digital environment in a DAW or a hardware setup in a studio, which is, you know, modular setup or whatever. I do spend time on that, you know, like configuring things, you know, routing things and connecting things, and just make something that I think can yield interesting results, you know. It always has to be something that I that I can explore in a sense, you know, something that I can find the range of, you know, like finding the range of your instrumentation. But once I get going, I basically record everything in one take. Mm-hmm. So, and I mean, there's some patching or editing afterwards often, you know. I'm not religious about it, but I'm just not patient enough to just go back to something and just iterate and iterate, because I mean, these days you can go on forever potentially, you know. So I like to have the restriction of having the tape running and having to lay down your idea quickly. For me, it's also a way to inject my energy into it, you know, like this live manipulation allows me to, you know, to create tension or to create an arc, or, you know, to play with the dynamics of the whole thing. And I prefer that over, you know, mousing around and, you know, spending time on micro editing stuff, you know.